Have you ever heard of a color reading? Have you ever heard of Space of Grace? Well, I want to share with you today about Space of Grace. Space of Grace is an online holistic wellness center that through its practitioners offer holistic wellness services. And one of them is Kim Amourette, who provides color readings. I got one myself and I'll tell you about it at the end of this vlog, but I wanted to share with you some questions that I had for Kim about who she is, what is a color reading, and what is Space of Grace.
Our principle is to have like a place where you can go to where you get support that is holistic, that where it's not just honing in on just one thing, where for instance a doctor will only look at the physical, but they won't look at like who you are. They won't look at your mind. They won't look at every aspect of just who you are. And so with Space of Grace, that's basically what we want. We want to be able to really give like a thorough support where as an individual you can really get to the bottom of just who you are within a specific issue, and you can really start like a healing process that works on all levels of yourself, where at the end of the day you're also going to have a deeper understanding of who you are and why you experience the things that you do in your life and why you go through what you go through and what you can do to change things around and heal yourself. So it's very much like supporting the potential of the individual for self-healing. Color reading is a very unique type of therapy, or rather just a fun way of gaining insight and perspective in terms of reading who a person is inside themselves within the many different dimensions of how they exist internally. We actually live different colors all the time, and that sounds maybe a little weird and like out there and strange, but that's just because it's like a completely different kind of thing that I do. What I do is I use my skill of muscle testing, which is like a biofeedback tool to test out or bring out one or a few colors that a person is living as different expressions of themselves that they're usually or sometimes not necessarily aware of. And I read those colors. And the reading of the color is basically where I look at what is the color expressing. Because when you, for instance, look at a color, you get a certain feel. And it's very subtle, and it's something that we're not usually very aware of, but it's definitely there. And I've found that you can go deeper into the feel of a color, and you can start really exploring it in terms of bringing it into words, what that color is expressing, what is the feel of that color. So essentially, in a way, with a color reading, I'm bringing out the feel or the description of a particular aspect or expression that a person is living in that moment in time. And I specifically do it in the frame of what would be most supportive for this person to realize or understand about themselves in this moment in time, because we're constantly living like different expressions all the time in terms of our mind and our personalities and what we go through. And like we have so many different aspects of ourselves that most of which we're not even aware of. So, I need to like simplify it and specify it into, what does this person need to at this time realize that would in some way support them in their life with something they're going through or just in general. How I do it is I basically, which is also something I sort of supported myself to develop, is to basically first take a person inside of me, which is just like a decision. Like I place this person in an as me and I stand as them right now. And then I basically just pull up like a Google image search on just colors. And then I just browse through all the different colors. And then I will find that there are specific colors that like stand out. Those colors are like standing out for that person that I've placed in an as me. And then those colors standing out would be, it's almost like the person is showing me like, this is what I need to see right now. Like this is the particular expression or aspect or dimension of myself that I need to realize or see right now. And then I'll just kind of go to paint and then like find like a nice solid image of the color. And then I start my color reading, which is just my description and trying to describe the expression that this color is showing me. Trying to put into words, like, what is this color revealing and showing in terms of what it is that this person needs to hear. I do use muscle testing to more like cross-reference, because I do try to do it myself, because it's like at the end of the day I need to take accountability for what I'm doing. So I feel like I don't want to like rely on muscle testing, be like, oh, just show me everything that I need to see. I don't want to be like a robot. So I try to see it myself. I do use muscle testing just as like a cross-reference, which is like communicating with the body, which has like a infinite wisdom type of thing, which can then cross-reference and tell me like, okay, yes, this is the color that we're working with. So it actually started, I guess, a few years ago now, when I started playing around with introducing color like on a physical level in my life, because it's like I never had much color in my life. Like the way that I live, even the way that I dressed, everything was like dark and bleak, and like my furniture, I never really introduced or played around with expressions or creativity, or like, really going for things that make me feel good even, so I was really on like a personal journey of finding my own expression or finding things that support me. So I started looking into colors. I learned about colors through Sinette Beast, who brought it up at a certain point that she was like sometimes wearing a different color shirt for a day because it would bring out a certain expression within her. From there, I guess I was also inspired to look at how I can use colors to paint furniture and things like that. For instance, I've got this salmon colored dresser in my living room, and that one specifically, the color for it tested out for me as an expression of assertiveness, because that's always been an issue for me personally, to sort of take charge of myself and my life and sort of be more in control, or be more the captain of my ship, when it comes to my own mind and my own life, and like really supporting myself and being there for myself. So, ever since then, I've introduced a lot more color in my living space, living environment, and it's really changed a lot for me in terms of just feeling more at home, and like I'm just more supported in terms of where I live and how I live. And from there, I guess I started to just play around and explore, how to maybe test out colors for other people, because I was curious, like, okay, well, I wonder what color would be supportive for this person or that person. And, starting to look into, what colors would test out if I looked into other people. And I realized I could actually use color readings, like testing out colors, to get to know people, because that was another thing for me that's always been like an issue, that I don't get out of my own shell that easily or often, in terms of I don't easily like socialize or get to know people, and it makes me feel quite like isolated and secluded in a way in my own mind. So with color readings, in the beginning, for me, it was more like a point of just getting to know people in my environment, and it like opened up a whole world, because now I was getting access to just who people are inside. And for me, that was kind of eye-opening, because, when you don't socialize easily, or in terms of get to know other people, you tend to also see your reality in a very superficial way, see people in a very superficial way. And it's almost like for the first time, I realized that other people are just like me. Other people are going through the same kind of things, and they have a world of like richness inside of them as these colors, these expressions. And that was really cool, for the first time, like starting to recognize myself within others. Ever since starting that journey with looking at the colors, I've realized that things are very specific as well. Like you'll pick out a color and it's very specific, even though you're not really aware of it, like that the fact that this particular color that you chose is actually a very specific expression that you deliberately chose for a very specific reason. And I found that sometimes I'll even spot someone on the street, or they're just wearing a certain color shirt, and it just draws my attention, and I'm like, this person is really interesting just because they're wearing that color. But because they're wearing that color, it's like they picked it out for a very specific reason. So it's really like showing showing something about who they are, even though they might not be aware of it themselves.
Yeah, it's like the point of there's always something deeper than the surface, you know? There's always something more to the story in a way.
Yeah, like everything is specific.
And I like the point too that the color readings came from your own just personal process and self-support, because I think that is when you can really trust something it's going to support someone else, when it comes from your own support. Like it's something that you did for yourself to like support yourself, and it just expanded into, well, this can also support other people. That's for me when it, you know, like, okay, this, I could trust this.
Yeah, that's definitely been like my motto as well. I just want to take care of myself first, and then from there I can look at how I can support other people. Because I also agree with that point of like, you can't possibly support anybody else, you know, if you haven't first kind of gone through it or supported yourself. Like you can't give someone advice that you're not living yourself, type of thing.
I've read some people's experience with it, and they're just like really kind of blows them away. Like Anna had a pretty remarkable experience
Yeah,
with the color
actually,
readings.
her color stands out for me too. It was like the first time that I also felt like I was going deeper than I usually went. Like I was really hitting some kind of spot that was real. And it was also because of that, there was a certain expression that came through that was also like extremely direct and to the point. And it made me kind of also question myself, like, should I post this? You know, should I share this? Because other than just my personal sort of feeling of, you know, this is right, and then the cross reference of my muscle testing, I don't have any way to really know for absolute certain that yes, this is it. So when I did share it, and then she gave her feedback of like, oh my God, this is, you know, something that somebody else told me as well. And, you know, it was just a very nice cross-reference for me as well, that, okay, so I can actually trust myself with what I'm doing, and that the color readings are like as, I guess, special or meaningful to others as they have been for me. The color readings, it's like, it came up for me in my life specifically because of the life that I've lived and the kind of person that I've been, where, as I mentioned, like I did not have any color in my life, in myself. And what I mean by that is that it's almost like I never had any life inside of me. I was always like very much more busy with thinking about like other people and being very superficial and like not having much of an inner richness or inner life and a sense of like self, you know, that I don't really know how to explain it, but like with the color readings, it's just like there's this aspect of fun to it. And it's like I'm diving into this pool of expression that I never felt was there, and that all of a sudden now it's like boundless and a fun way of exploring everything there is about reality, you know, which is me. You know, I'm exploring other people, but at the same time, it's me. It's like different aspects of reality that I'm getting to know. And yeah, it's just, it's fun. And I feel like I've never really experienced that in my life, like real fun, where you just kind of feel like all giddy inside. The colors that will come up for a person is always going to be specific. So, and the words that come through from the color is also going to be specific to who that person is and where they're at inside themselves. So even with people who aren't necessarily very like self-reflective or things like that, sometimes you also, you know, hear some things in your life that only later on start to make sense, but somehow the words still resonate and kind of seep through the layers of yourself and nestle themselves. So I kind of go on that. And sometimes even like colors, just the depth of what comes through with a color sometimes is quite astounding. Like I read a color for myself the other day, and because it's me, there's a lot more that's going to come through as well. But it's like some of these colors are really like, okay, here's the problem and this is the solution. Like this is what you can do to solve this problem. So it's like all there in the color. So it's like this whole kind of world that opens up. And I feel like the more I do it, the more of these different aspects and dimensions of what actually is there in that color are starting to open up.
So now that you know a little bit more about Kim and Space of Grace and color readings, I'll share with you my experience. Kim gave me a reading and she gave me 3 colors, and the colors are here. The first color represented this like childlike expression of me that was really fun and really goofy and really innocent and kind of just really like childlike and innocent and free. And it was so cool because I could so relate to something that I had been experiencing the last few months within myself. I had noticed this expression kind of emerging within me of feeling very childlike, feeling very explorative and curious and wanting to, get out in the world and see what's going on and learn about things, and noticing that I was a lot less judgmental towards myself. So this color was like spot on because it's exactly how I've been experiencing myself the last few months. So it was a really cool cross-reference for myself to see that this expression that was coming through me, Kim in a way validated for me because I had never talked to her about this before, but she was able to pull this color through. The next color she gave me was, she described it as this loveliness about me and how it was very just like very loving, very open, very unconditional, very non-judgmental. It was interesting because initially I couldn't relate to it, but as I talked to her about it a little bit more, she described it as a point that I haven't yet recognized in myself. And then when she said that, it made total sense because I often see myself, well, I've shared with you in the past that I've been very judgmental with myself. I can be very hard on myself. I can be very harsh on myself. I can be really just like negative with myself and think the worst of myself. And in a way, it's like I judge myself that there was something innately wrong with me and I was actually very like not a good person. This color really was a point of support in showing me that I'm actually very sweet. I'm actually very kind. I'm actually very loving and I can be very lovely. And so it was a point of this is something that I can utilize to support this expression in myself. So I can buy shirts that are these colors, or I could buy a blanket that's this color, or I could maybe use my cell phone background as this color. It's like incorporate this color more in my life, and that will support me to incorporate this expression of myself more in my life. So that was also a very cool color that I could definitely relate to as a point of I can bring this color more in my life, decorate my life more with this color, and so decorate more myself as this expression. The next color was a point of suppression in a way, which I can definitely relate to. I've always been someone that really suppresses myself. I was a smoker for a lot of years. I just recently quit, and it's definitely felt like I've taken away this suppression box, and I'm now just like seeing everything that I used to stuff down. I'm learning how to deal with my experiences. So this color was interesting, and even as I talk about it now, it's like there's a resistance to facing this. There's a resistance to identifying this part of myself that it's like I noticed that there are times where I can very easily just shut off and just like shut myself off to feeling or having any kind of emotion to something. I can basically just become very muted, very just turned off. Like it's almost like a manipulation tactic that I use with other people. It's like I become stone cold in a way. I become very like expressionless, and I become very just unwavering, but it is a suppression because I'm basically telling myself I'm not going to process this experience. I'm not going to face this experience. I'm not going to deal with this experience because I don't want to. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm suppressing, I'm hiding, I'm ignoring, I'm abdicating my responsibility to that experience. Instead, I'm just like locking it down and just pretending it's not happening. It doesn't exist. It's not here. When it is very much here, and it's gonna come out if I don't deal with it. So that color was a very cool point of support also, and seeing that a majority of my wardrobe has been that color for the last 20 years. So that was really interesting too. So that was a really interesting color that she brought through and supported me to face, because essentially I wasn't wanting to face that myself. So my experience with the color readings was really cool. I found a lot of support, cool cross-reference for myself, definitely some support how I can color myself a little bit more, and also in what I still need to deal with and still need to address, and to watch for those moments where I'm wanting to just pretend that I don't experience what I'm experiencing. So thanks, Kim, so much for the color reading. I really enjoyed it, and if you're interested in having a color reading yourself, you can check out some of the ones she's done in the past. I'll link that below. Otherwise, I'll link below also where you can contact her directly. She's definitely an awesome resource to be connected to. So if you're interested in the color readings, check out Space of Grace, check out Kim Amourette, and if you guys have any questions, definitely feel free to ask. Stick around because I'm going to showcase another practitioner from Space of Grace in time to come. Thanks, guys. See you next time.